about how we are continuing to improve on our practices as a high school, as a division, and all of the exciting opportunities for our students moving forward.
Any questions from the board? Oh, thank you. Do you have any questions or comments? Yes, Ms. Russell.
So, Mr. Hose, you talked about that focus was going to, I guess, for this year has been on the student well-being and the mental health or impact. So I'm just curious if you have any metrics or any ways that you're measuring the success or the impact of the stable groups and the Wild Horse Wednesdays, like if there's any kind of feedback that you're getting or any formal measurement that you've been doing for that.
No, that's a wonderful question. All right, thank you, Ms. Russell. If I could, I'm going to invite my two assistant principals, Dr. Kevin Clark and Mr. Dave Sorensis. They've really been leading a lot of the work that you saw in the video. But you ask an excellent question. So recently we sent a survey out to our entire staff just to get an idea of the different areas that we may need to improve on, understanding that this is a new structure that we put in place for this year. We also sent a survey out to our students, I want to say about maybe 6 weeks ago. Earlier, about 2 hours ago, we actually met as a team and we kind of went over some of the data to determine some of the changes we're going to make for next year. One of the things we're looking at are really theme-focused points for each particular grade level. We recognize that, as a school, we all share certain beliefs and different things that we want to do for our students, but I think there are significant, differences within each grade level that allow those grade levels for success. For example, our 10th graders are working on the MYP personal project. Our 9th graders, may need that social, learning part that can really help them be successful. And then our juniors and seniors can focus on the career and college readiness component and service learning. And so we've kind of incorporated that into an entire school, but I think next year we're really wanting to focus on more of a grade level model. So it's a great question. We're going to continue to give surveys to students on a semester basis to make sure that we can use their feedback. Just as Principal Hardy described, our student voice in the building is very important. We want to hear from them and we want to use what they say to make any necessary changes moving forward.
Other questions or comments from the board? Yes, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks to all of you for your leadership over the past year and dealing with a lot of big challenges that are going on. And one of the things I was struck by, Ms. Hardy, was you're speaking about the student voice. Can you tell us more about that and how you've made that work this year?
Sure. It's actually been sort of organic, which has been really great for us. Sort of starting from some of our work in December around race and equity, the students, very similar to our high school students, felt the need to really try to say, not in our house, right? And so giving them an opportunity and a platform to say, what is it that you want to say and do? So we allowed them to sort of gather and process, how can you be a good friend, right? How can you be that bystander that helps to support students who maybe are struggling when they see inequities happening? But it also spurred into other areas, right? So as we started to think about instruction, part of the entire IB philosophy is around feedback to students. And when you start to get that feedback and ask them what is it that they either need to be able to have success in the classroom, they give you lots of anecdotal points along the way too. So we said, do you want to figure out, right, how to meet them? Let's ask them. So we did a lot of surveys on Schoology using that platform. And when I say the response rates were high, I mean a building of 608 to get 270 responses back, right? It's pretty good data on where the pulse of our students are. So they've been really candid in that. We've given the SCA ownership in saying, you all lead this. This isn't just us, but how do you help us get that information that we need to know to help better educate you? So it's really been sort of that leveling of the playing field. Adolescents aren't afraid to tell you what they're thinking. And I think we've given them a safe platform to let them know we're here to support them and they feel that. So it's really helping us shape how we go into next year thinking about that at the forefront.
Yes, Mr. Castillo.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thank you all for coming out tonight. Could you just touch briefly on how you two and your teams work together? Because I know Henderson and GMHS are cheek by jowl, and there's a lot of exchange going on. So could you talk a little bit about how you collaborate?
Yeah, I mean, I think Valerie was just pointing out to the fact that we spend a lot of time together, and that's definitely by choice, but also by necessity, because we have so many different programs that we share. She was just talking about Student Voice, and I think about the Hustangs, right? A group where we have several of our high school students who come over and serve as mentors for the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And, you know, it really is, when you talk about meaningful collaboration, you can continue to name 4, 5, 6 different opportunities that all of our kids have to work together. But, you know, it's something about the connection that many of our kids still have to Henderson. And I think that it's a testament to Principal Hardy, the faculty, the teachers that, you know, many of whom I saw at graduation. So I think it's organically there, but it's also part of the intent, right? It's part of what we expect out of our students at the high school, and I know what she expects out of her students at the middle school. So it's about continuing to make sure that we create these opportunities for students to collaborate while we are also collaborating ourselves, whether it's on the schedule or you name it.
And I think one of the things that you highlighted in the video was the standards-based grading work and that pilot. And really, that's been a collaborative effort with all of the APs. I mean, Dr. Dippold, Dr. Clark, Mr. Sorensis, that's really been their work that they've been leading. And as we think about that cohort and MYP, right, it spans 6 through 10. So organically, there's a need to align programs and practices. And so Matt and I were just chuckling, 43 teachers will actually be in that from both buildings next year. And it's another great opportunity for us to dig into this work together, to do it side by side, and I think to continue to foster those relationships that are needed as we go through this transition together. You're leading it.
I think just to highlight exactly what she was saying is that our teachers, who many of whom are coming to us and asking to be part of this opportunity, I think is very special. Not only because it aligns with the program of MYP and the philosophy behind the IB programs that span at this point pre-K through 12, but because we think it's going to be great for kids and great for learning. And so it's, you know, we've met numerous times throughout the past year, both with a core team of MEH and George Mason folks, Henderson and Mason folks, as well as teachers now who are getting ready to kind of launch on this. In addition to short Wednesday meetings that we've collaborated with, you know, over the past 6 years between the schools to make sure that our programs are top notch and that teachers are doing excellent work for kids. On the spot.
Ms. Hardy, I was wondering too, there was the great joint PTA meeting where Natasha Kolaros was there speaking about failure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of focus on failure, negative focus, a lot of anxiety. Could you talk a little bit more about that and how we can get past that?
Yeah, it's been, my Principal Coffee series this year has really been around that. We did a shared read with parents to sort of talk about that piece of how do you accept failure as part of growth and not see it as a negative. But we kind of peeled the layer back. I think Mr. Castillo's talking about that specific meeting where we talked about, as parents, right, our own need to live a certain way and have a certain projection and what that puts on our students. And I think it kind of comes full circle when you hear about the work being done around social emotional learning, right? And so we've tried to create those pockets of conversation where we can say, failure is about growth, and if we can start to change that narrative with ourselves as parents, ourselves as educators, our students will start to see that as well. So no one rode a bike right the first time. No one came out walking, right? You had to fall down and learn. So part of our message has been around that, and building that as ourselves and educators is hard because we don't like to not do something right the first time. But I have to model it, right? I think I've had some pretty public modeling this year. But I think that that's part of how we learn and grow. And I think the more that we normalize that, the safer it becomes for our students. And then they know it's really about learning, not about the grade.
Any other comments? Questions? Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the way you do model such positive energy for all of our students and for our community. Really appreciate it. Thanks for a great year. All right, next on the agenda is public comments and requests. In accordance with School Board Bylaw 2.30, the time for each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Additional written statements may be submitted to the clerk for dissemination to board members and for the record. Do we have any comments? If anyone has not submitted a written comment and would like to come up anyway, do so now. Okay. Seeing none, we're going to do a quick amendment to the agenda to move our closed meeting after our recognitions and reports because there are so many great students here we'd like to recognize tonight. Mr. Anderson, would you please do that? Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'd like to move that we move items 4 and 5, the closed meeting and certification thereof, to after the recognitions and report, and that would make the recognitions report a new item 4, and then move from there.
Is there a second? Oh. Thank you, Ms. Litton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you very much. So we now move on to our new section 4, which is recognitions and reports. And first on the agenda is item 6.01, our Team 1418 robotics highlights.
John, is there a video? What's that? Oh, sorry. As members of the team are getting the video queued up, I want to take just a second to thank the leadership of the robotics team, specifically Steve Knight and Cricket Moore, who are here tonight. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Cricket, for your incredible leadership of the team. As Matt mentioned in his State of the Schools, this was the third international qualification in how many years? 3? 3 in the last.
We're starting our 15th year.
How many?
We just finished our 15th year.
And so
6 times.
6 times to the international.
2007, 8, and 10, as well as 14, 15, and 16.
All right. Well, there you have it. An incredible international presence for George Mason High School's robotics team. Meanwhile, I'm going to tap dance just for a little bit more as that's coming up, because we had a really interesting meeting, and this might be interesting to the community too, with Virginia Tech yesterday, talking about their potential move to redevelop the site right next to George Mason High School. And as part of the conversation, they would be potentially moving their School of Architecture to that Northern Virginia site with redevelopment. And as the dean of the architecture school at Virginia Tech was talking about the design and architecture for the future, he specifically said architecture of the future is going to be reliant on robotics. And I was fortunate enough to be in the room when he said that, because I said, you've come to the right place, because we have an internationally renowned robotics team. But he said robotics, AI, and sustainable architecture are the way that we're going to be they're going to be moving into the future. So I just want, as the team is getting ready to share a little bit about your experiences, to say that the work that you've been doing is future forward and really implicates, I think, in many ways, what the work of design and architecture and urban sustainability is going to look like for the future. So thank you for your incredible work. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you all to introduce yourselves, just in time. Introduce yourselves and share with us your presentation.
Okay. Good evening, school board members. My name is Tahseen Sheikh, and I'm a rising junior on Team 1418.
Hello, my name is Sophia Hartney, and I'm also a rising senior on the team.
Man, it works. Okay. First and foremost, we'd like to thank the school board for all that they do to support Team 1418, because we really would not be able to do all that we do without your support. That's why this evening we are super excited to share with you all the achievements we have earned this season.
For the last 15 years, we have participated in the FIRST Robotics Competition, or FRC, under the larger organization of FIRST. Every year, we are challenged to create a robot from scratch that can play in a game with and against other robots. The game changes each year and is released worldwide in early January. We then spend